Hey Noah.
Yeah?
Penny for your thoughts.
Thank you.
What'd you think of the new Macs?
You know, they're pretty cool. But is it cool enough to make me jump ship from my old MacBook Pro?
Let's find out.
That's what it should be.
Yeah, that's great. So the new MacBook Pros were unveiled on Thursday, and they bring a lot of new features, like a much larger trackpad, a new color, new keyboard, much more powerful interior, and of course, the touch bar.
Yes. I'm so glad, I just want to say that they did not call it the Magic Toolbar.
Yeah, I did hear that rumor.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that would have been an absolutely revolting name, and I'm very glad that they didn't go with it.
Would go with the hat, though.
That is true.
Ooh.
I was actually very impressed with the features that they had in the Magic Toolbar. I think especially for video editing, it could be really cool.
Yeah, that Final Cut Pro update that they showed off was cool. You could, scrub through the video even while you have it in full screen. It's kind of cool.
So Noah, your Mac is 5 years old now, and the question is it worth the upgrade to the new one?
Well, I do love my early 2011 MacBook Pro, but I've missed out on, 5 years of Mac updates, so...
I mean, think of this. That thing is not Retina. It has a ye olden timey hard drive.
Has a disk drive.
What?
And an Ethernet port.
What?
Crazy, I know. Look at it.
What the hell is
and
that?
And FireWire, too.
Oh my god.
Good old FireWire.
Now, in addition to that, I believe you've had the logic board replaced how many times?
Twice so far, hoping for a third time before the end of the year.
Why?
Because at the end of the year, the program where they fix it for free expires, and I feel like after 5 years, I probably shouldn't put any more money into this computer.
Okay, yeah, but why would you want it to break again?
So that they can replace it one more time, and maybe I'll get another year's worth of work out of it.
Or, here's the other option.
Okay.
You could just buy the new one.
It's true. But there are some things about the new one that I'm not a huge fan of.
Like what?
Well, I mean, the CD drive is a pretty small one, and that's been gone since, 2012?
Yeah, pretty much.
But, I do still use it occasionally, and it's nice to have.
For what?
Same with the Ethernet port, honestly, and that's also been gone since 2012. But I do use it, and the whole thing about the new Mac that really gets me is the lack of convenience.
Yeah, that really bothered me too. The 4 USB-C/Thunderbolt 3 ports. I mean, I like that there's 4 of them, and USB-C is the future. There's no doubt about it. But it isn't the future right now.
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, I personally, I don't even have a particularly old Retina thing, but I use my SD card religiously because I use this thing for editing. I use HDMI sometimes. I use USB about all the time.
Right.
For, all of my footage being on my USB hard drive.
Right.
As well as, well, I don't use my Thunderbolt ever. And I use my headphone jack, but that's staying.
So the thing is, with all of these ports that I really like, I'm gonna need to buy adapters to use all of them. I'm gonna have like a bag full of adapters to carry around with my MacBook Pro. It's kind of cool, it's kind of like Lego, you like, which piece am I gonna put in the hole?
That's not something that you want for dongles, though. You
right,
don't want to have a Lego set of dongles coming off your computer.
I agree with you, which is like the main reason why I'm not so keen.
Yeah, so I fully get that, but when you look at when you look at the rest of the computer, though, I mean, that trackpad is absolutely gigantic.
It's true.
We're talking about the 13 and the 15 inch. The 15 inch especially, because I can't even put into words how huge that trackpad is. I've never seen anything like it.
It's huge.
It's almost like this. I think it's like the size of an iPad mini screen almost.
It can't be 8 inches. But I'll tell you, Luke, the 3 features that I'm gonna miss the most are the battery button on the side, the sleeping indicator, and the infrared. I love using my Apple remote with my Mac.
Oh no! And we're talking like the old Mac remotes that they used to include with the iMacs, right? Like, that's the only thing that works.
Yeah.
Can you even do anything with that anymore?
You can control iTunes, but not front row, because
they
removed
removed
front row! How could they do
Why?
this? I use it all the time!
Yeah. I used to actually use it to watch Gilligan's Island.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I had Gilligan's Island on iTunes.
I actually brought it with me.
What, Gilligan's Island?
Yes.
You legit brought Gilligan's Island with you?
Season 2.
Now, the touch bar is actually really cool. I think having the customization, and I had no idea that it was going to have as many features as it did. I think we all kind of thought it would just be, you know, contextual buttons. But the fact that you can actually, you know, do stuff in Final Cut Pro and Photos, I was actually really surprised, and I'm very glad that they did that.
Yeah, that DJ demo, the guy like live DJing, is pretty cool. But it's actually run by its own processor, and it runs
really?
a modified version of WatchOS. It's its own. I think it's called the T1 chip or something like that.
Oh, I did hear the T1 chip.
Right.
I didn't know that ran the whole thing.
That runs the touch bar,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's a modified version of WatchOS on the touch bar.
That's actually really cool. So it's like its own little computer.
Right, they could open up some really cool things with that in the future.
Cause you could play Flappy Bird, like
Whoa.
really wide. You could watch movies, like
Yes.
ridiculously widescreen movies.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
Or it just takes, like, it chops the movie up into 5 bars and puts them next to each other.
Oh, that's even better almost.
Yeah.
I think it would be really cool. App developers could put some really cool features for games. Like, could you imagine if in Minecraft where you could click on your inventory
that's
down
cool.
there?
I
That
like
would be
that.
cool.
I like that.
I think that's really cool. Also, I like that the Mac has Touch ID. I love the new trackpad. Love the new trackpad. The screen is really crisp. And, you know, I'm coming from the 13-inch Retina MacBook Pro, which has a pretty good screen. But the color gamut and the amount of colors that the new one can display is really nice. And the speakers are a huge improvement. And, you know, it's all, like, really exciting.
With that excitement does come a price.
That's right. The base model, the absolute cheapest, well, I should say, the absolute least expensive that you can get is $1,500. And that doesn't even include the Magic Wizard Touch Bar.
So if you want it with the touch bar, what's it, 1,800?
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty expensive.
And that's, I think, 256 gigs of storage.
Which is honestly a joke for the 13 and, like, absolutely ridiculous for the 15.
Yeah, okay, can we talk about this for a second?
Yes,
Because
please.
I am absolutely furious that you start with 256 gigabytes of storage.
They can't call this a MacBook Pro
That's disgusting.
and give 256 gigabytes of storage.
As a person who uses my MacBook Pro for video editing, the fact that the absolute top of the line MacBook Pro for 2015 is 500 gigabytes, which is what the base model for 2011 starts with, is frankly disgusting. And, you know, as someone who edits videos on an almost daily basis, I am constantly running into that, you know, cannot complete the rendering because there's not enough storage on the computer.
Yeah, I will say the difference, you know, this is not SSD and that
That's
is
true.
But there is something to be said about pure size of the hard drive because you need the storage space. And I think that we're gonna have to get at least a terabyte if we're going with this new Mac to
Oh yeah.
really
And it costs a fortune.
It's $400 more. If you pick the most expensive 15-inch MacBook Pro, which is what, $2,500?
No, 26.
26. And then you have to pay another $400 for a terabyte if you want a terabyte.
Which you do. So now let's talk a little bit about the pricing because, you know, as we said, they are pretty expensive machines. But what we're going to go over now is a couple ways that you can get the price down a bit from that outrageously high starting price to a slightly less outrageously high starting price. Now, the first thing that you can do to take money off across the board is shop on the education store. You can save anywhere between $100 and probably $300.
You get 10% off of your order.
Is it really 10%? Yeah.
Yeah,
So 10% off of your order, no matter what it is, or at least with the MacBook Pros, I don't know about the other stuff. And honestly, that's pretty big, especially considering that Apple doesn't actually, you know, verify that you're a student. So if you're 78, you could still buy off the education store and they, you know, you'd be fine.
But if you're 79,
No way. Alright, so to give you an example of the savings you can get just with the education store, we're going to go through the models that we have spec'd out, the ones that we would be comfortable buying. So we're upgrading from the lower tier one, the one that starts at 24 without the education discount.
Right.
Now the upgrades that we would do is, of course, the 1 terabyte SSD, which bumps you up, I think, another $600 without education. And you would upgrade the graphics card from 2 to 4 gigabytes of VRAM in the Radeon Pro 460. That's $200. That puts our grand total at $3,200. Now, with the education store, you get the same thing with the same upgrades for how much?
$2,969.
That is solid.
There is a difference.
That's solid. That's $240. That's a pretty decent savings.
That's like the amount that you'll spend on all the adapters you have to buy.
Now, there's another little life hack that we have for how to get the MacBook Pro for less. Now, what I did was we configured the lower tier model, the one that has the 2.6 gigahertz processor. Because if you spec it out with the same specs as the top of the range one, the 2.7 gigahertz processor, the only difference is a 2.7 gigahertz quad core versus a 2.6 gigahertz quad core. Everything else is exactly the same, but it's $100 less.
Or with the education discount, $80.
Yes, so you have to think, is that 0.1 gigahertz worth $80 to $100?
I don't know.
The answer is no. Because unless you are insane, the answer is no. So that's just a little life hack on how to get the absolute maxed out computer without education from $3,300 to basically the same computer, but for $2,970. Now that's decent. That represents a cost saving of $330.
It's not bad.
That's really good.
But it's still expensive.
Yeah, I mean, it's still... The thing is still $3,000, for heaven's sake.
This guy was $1,800 new.
So was this guy.
And I put, I think it was $100 into buying new RAM.
Yeah, up to 16
Yeah,
gigabytes.
4 gigs up to 16 kills my battery life, but it's still worth it. Yeah, it gets about like 3 hours of battery life with light use.
Okay, so again, we're circling back now to the beginning of the video.
Right.
Why would you not upgrade?
This thing has so much sentimental value. All of my YouTube videos were on there. That's gotten me through high school so far. I got over 1,000 cycles on that battery.
Over 1,000?
It's like close to 1,100.
The thing is only rated for 1,000.
Yeah, I know, but it's somewhere around 1,100 at this point. Well, you know what? It's 3 to 4 weeks before they ship, so I have a little time to think about it.
So that's all for today's video. Make sure to check back next week, and don't forget to subscribe. So that's all for today's video. Make sure to check back next week. So that's all for today's week. Oh my god.
I said it again.
Make sure to check back next Jack.
one.
That's all for today's video. Oh my god.
And always subscribe.
Always. You only have to do it once. And don't forget to
oh my god. So that's all for next week.
So that's all for today's video.